But first today, after receiving a significant settlement in a personal injuries case, Mary's son was made a ward of court as a result of his incapacity to manage his own assets. This means all future major decisions regarding her son, however personal, have to go through the courts.
For Mary, this means she feels that her role as a parent has become redundant. For legal reasons, we've had to change Mary's name, black out her face and distort her voice to protect the identity of her son.
All this came about when my son had an accident, a personal accident, and he was awarded a large sum of money. And on the day of the court case, we were told he was going to be made ward of court. My understanding of being ward of court was to protect my son's money. So we agreed to go ahead and make my son a ward of court. The implications are we had found out then, I think we got a leaflet a couple of months later from the ward of court stating exactly what ward of courtship was. And we were told, in the leaflet, we're told my son won't be able to marry. If he's made a ward of court, he's not allowed to marry. He's not allowed to own a bank account. We have to close his bank account. He's to, anytime he needs an operation, unless it's an emergency operation, we need to sign, the courts need to sign the documents to say he needs the operation. Or if we're leaving the country, he needs to get permission from the courts to leave. He's always talking about marriage, yeah, and I can't tell him, no, you can't get married. I can't tell him. Even though the courts have said he can't, I can't tell him, no, you can't get married. Because it's his right if he wants to marry. He has a right to marry if he wants. Right now, he can't, no. It makes me angry as a mother. It's his rights are gone. He's not a human. He's part of the state now. He's just not. He has no rights. His rights are gone. And as a mother, it's very annoying and very sad to see he's got intellectual disability. So his whole life is about learning and progressing and building his life up to be independent. And this has just brought it back down. It's made me feel as a parent null and void. I don't belong anymore. I don't exist, basically. So. Sorry. And I took responsibility for my son at a young age. I knew I was going to be a lifetime responsibility. To now the court saying that I can't be a full-time mother and sign for anything he needs or do anything he needs, it's not fair. Sorry. No, it's not about money. It's about my son's rights. He's not a person anymore. He's a number to the courts. What it means for a mother to actually have to ask permission to bring their child out of the country it's crazy. But all we had to do was email and ask for permission. It's as simple as that, but it's as degrading as anything a mother can do. When we found out he was being made ward of court, we found out what it was about. We searched the internet. We scoured the internet to find out what we could do. So we found, on Facebook, we found a site saying there was going to be a meeting, a seminar, a UPR seminar. And we were like, what's this? Human rights? What's this all about? So we went and they told us all the different, not even just ward of court rights, it's everybody's rights, the different types of rights that have been they're trying to fix in Ireland. And I think what they're doing is fabulous. What they're trying to do is change the rights in Ireland. And not many people know how bad it is out there, because we're such a supposedly rich country that the rights of ordinary people are just being messed with. And I think we need to stand up and let everybody know what's happening. We know it's a long process. We've been waiting for 7 years for the judgment for my son, and we're going to be probably waiting a long time to see a new law for ward of court, and we're willing to wait as long as possible. And if it helps other families, then if it doesn't help us, that's fine, but if it helps other families before it gets to the stage we're at, I'm happy.
And Deirdre Duffy from the Irish Council of Civil Liberties join us now. Deirdre, just explain to us, this whole ward of court, it's built around a law from the 19th century.
That's right. The law that regulates the ward of court system in Ireland is from 1871. So it's 140 years old, and it's quite archaic, and it's completely out of step with modern family life and modern legal system.
It's not even an Irish law.
Well, it's a law that comes from the old English law, so, you know, it naturally found its way into our legal system as well. The wards of court system basically formalises arrangements for adults who lack capacity to make decisions. So, as you know, adults may lack that capacity due to various reasons. And the family that were discussed in the previous piece, this relates to somebody who has an intellectual disability. One of the huge challenges with this law is that it's essentially black and white. So it doesn't take into account the spectrum of intellectual disabilities or other issues that might give rise to somebody becoming a ward of court. So, as you can imagine, some people have quite mild learning difficulties, whereas other people might have more profound disabilities. But the current system that we've got in place, if you are declared a ward of court, that's it. Your rights are removed from you. The rights of any of your family members to support you are also removed from you, and you become the responsibility of the High Court.
But this law was written at a time when there was a very different understanding. So, you know, it was supposed to be looked at and repealed in 2008.
Yes, you're quite right. Well, there's a scheme of a mental incapacity bill that was published in 2008, but unfortunately it sat there since then. What we're doing as part of the UPR process that was mentioned in that piece, it's called the Universal Periodic Review process. What we're doing as part of that is we're looking to get this law moved on. So the Universal Periodic Review, or UPR, is a UN system whereby the human rights records of all the different UN countries are examined by their peers. And this Thursday it's Ireland's turn. So Minister Shatter will go before the UN Human Rights Council on Thursday, and he will explain to them how we are living up to our international human rights obligations. We have obligations under various pieces of international law to protect the rights of people with disabilities. At the moment, we are in a position where we cannot ratify the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities because we have this archaic wards of court system in place, and we don't have the right capacity legislation on the books. So we're using this process as a means to call on the government to really push forward on this reform. We can see the impact that it's having on the family in the piece previously, but also there are many other families throughout Ireland.
There must be thousands of people around the country. I mean, every court case you hear of where something has happened to a child or an adult, I mean, they're all wards of court then if they receive compensation and they're mentally incapable of handling that compensation.
Well, this particular legislation is about adults who don't have capacity, but you're quite right, Sybil, when you say that there are many families throughout the country who are affected by this. As part of the UPR process, the project that I'm involved with, Your Rights Right Now, we conducted 17 consultation events throughout Ireland. We also received 82 submissions on human rights, various human rights issues that are affecting people, ranging from the right to education, the right to health, the rights of the family. And the ward of court issue came up on a number of occasions. So this is not an isolated incident. And we know from other civil society groups that this is an issue that has a real impact on people's lives.
I suppose, ideally, it was put in place to protect somebody getting access to the money who wasn't supposed to. Was that right? And, you know, let's say in the case that we heard where the family needs to alert the court if this individual needs to have a medical procedure done. I mean, and if they want to go out of the country. I mean, there's so many parts to it, but it's to protect that individual and to protect their compensation.
Yes, you're quite right.
Against,
Sure, it's to protect a vulnerable person and also to, to prevent any risk risk of abuse. So this process is about other UN countries making recommendations to Ireland. So we would be hoping for strong performance from the Minister, that he sets out his stall very clearly, and we'll be really interested to see what type of recommendations the other UN countries make to us, and we fully expect that recommendations will be made around this legal incapacity issue. What was really important for us, gathering this group together, we have 17 members in a delegation travelling to Geneva. So what was important for us was that these people who voiced an issue in a small meeting in Ireland will now see this issue debated in an international arena at this high-profile international event, where our government will have to stand up and respond to the reasons why they're not fully protecting people's human rights.
It's going to be very interesting. It's something we're going to follow with great interest. My understanding of being made a ward of court was that in an awful lot of cases, a member of the family would have to go and make an application for this to happen. In so many other, and particularly in this, I don't think any member of the family went and asked for such a thing to happen. And I'm sure it's the same in many other cases too.
Yes, well, you're right. I mean, there's two different ways. I mean, well, there are a number of ways, but one of the ways would be that a family member makes a petition in order to have somebody made a ward of court. But I suppose that's a hard decision to make, I would imagine, because it goes back to what we were talking about, how, and I think it was referred to in the piece as well, that the reason why this happened was to protect the assets.
Yeah.
So people don't necessarily see the enormous consequences of a person being made ward of court. So a lot of times I would imagine a family member is acting in the best interest of the person, thinking, yes, we want to protect the assets, whereas actually, in fact, it has other consequences too.
Well, we wish you good luck this week. It'll be interesting
Thank you.
to see what happens. Something that's going to affect a lot of people at the outcome. And we wish, unfortunately, we couldn't bring Mary onto the couch, but we saw her there in the piece. But we wish her well with her fight for her son. And many thanks for coming on, Deirdre.
Thank you.
Now, coming up, how being a farmer has become cool once more. As more people enter the sector, I'll be meeting one young farmer on his land in Wicklow after this break.